Well, this is going to be an amazing interview. Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum. It's an internal audit and compliance consulting firm headquartered in sunny Los Angeles, California. I'm also a speaker and writer on topics like COSO 2013, SOX 404, quality assessment reviews, internal auditing, and related topics. Today's interview is with Dr. Daniel Selby. Dr. Selby is the founder and CEO of Daniel Selby PLLC. He has over 25 years of hands-on experience with Fortune 100 entities via corporate reporting, external auditing, internal auditing, regulatory compliance, and yes, even SSAE 16 services. He is a CPA and a CISA, which I call the double threat, right, those IT auditors. He's got a master's and PhD from Florida State University. He's currently affiliated with the University of Richmond's Robbins School of Business, where he's taught accounting information systems, financial management, accounting, auditing, and graduate IT auditing. His research, on accounting, auditing, and information systems has been published in ISACA journals and other distinguished publications. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi. Good morning, I guess I could say to you.
No, morning's perfect. We're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed here. I was really excited, to get you on the show because you have had just a wonderful trend in research and different publications that I wanted to make sure our listeners got some of the aha moments that you have noticed, and not only in just corporate governance, but just in the auditing profession. So let's get into it. I wanted to first off ask you what inspires you to investigate and perform practical research that can directly influence accounting and the audit practice?
Well, thanks for that question, Sonia, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My research is inspired basically by my work experience with people like you. I attend a plethora of professional conferences and CP workshops all over the country, and that's actually how I met you. And I have much more enjoyable conversations and meaningful information at those types of conferences in comparison to the academic conferences that I also attend. So what I basically do is I convert those conversations and experiences into research questions. For example, early in my career, I worked in public accounting. But during a time when much more emphasis was placed on human behavior and very little energy was expended on it, understanding automated systems, human behavior within the accounting information system is very worthy of auditors' attention. However, this black box approach to conducting audits never sat well with me. So I grew more and more curious about how systems work and the internal controls that existed within those systems. So I went into my PhD program with the hope of making a difference in regards to this problem. I saw firsthand how financial statement auditors would test ITGCs because there was space remaining in the audit budget. Meanwhile, they understood little about how those ITGCs affected automated controls at the application level. So they would perform field management inquiries about the ITGCs, and that was it pretty much. So as long as the ITGCs checked out, the automated IT controls were deemed to be good, and auditors would assume that everything else at the application level would be okay. Now, I'm a firm believer that you should not rely on application controls derived from weak ITGCs. And I'm sure everybody who's listening would also agree with that. But let's also think about what we learned in school about substance over form. The ITGC would be sound, but at the same time, it could be misapplied at the application level, and that's where the rubber really hits the road. So in my dissertation, I examined how financial statement auditors assess risk and plan their audits in the manual business process domain and in the automated IT domain. But in the same vein, I also investigated how IT specialists reacted in those same environments. And what I found was that both auditor types were influenced by their evidence environment. And more specifically, they were all biased in that they were influenced by relevant information in those information environments. So let's just say that my results were interesting to major firms and may have added fuel to the fire simply because if both types of auditors have the same judgment biases, you might as well allow financial statement auditors to perform tests that relate to IT. Audits will be more profitable to the firms.
Right,
So,
and
yeah.
for those listeners who are really, we will definitely provide the hyperlink on the online version of this show. But I dug a little deeper as well on the website where it has your publications, and some of the publications are dealing with, for example, do external financial auditors sufficiently adjust their audit plans for automated control deficiencies? So that's a very good question. In other words, you have an automated control that didn't work. Okay, it's not functioning as intended. And I like the fact that you put just control deficiency. It's you didn't put material weakness, right?
Right.
Because most of the firms have this checklist approach where, okay, material weakness means I got to do extra effort, whether it's substantive work on the actual account balance, et cetera, or transactions. But this was more of just like, look, this is just a deficiency in the automated control. How does this affect human behavior when they get into an audit environment? And then there's another publication you have out, which is, can financial statement auditors identify risk patterns in IT control evidence when they actually have it? So it does take. I don't think out of school you get it right away. It takes a very good thought leader to kind of push you along to say, here's a negative trend in, let's say, those IT general controls over, I don't know, logical security, right? People who get very laxed about that. It takes a experienced professional to kind of lay the road work, if you will, to the staff. That's been my professional experience, and I wanted to get in deeper about your feelings about the practice, talking about the accounting practice. So what do you feel the accounting practice, in particular the internal audit, what can we do better?
Well, I think that I really believe that practice has to encourage more research like mine and then learn from that research. But at the same time, I would honestly say that practice is making changes for the better. I mean, if you look at the new COSO 2013, the new 2014 Green Book rules, I mean, some may disagree, but practice is well ahead, and in my opinion, academic research, because they are much more progressive with regards to technology and how technology impacts the financial statement and the internal controls. The research process is a very long process, and many academics feel that it takes 10 years for research results to go mainstream, and that's far too long because, I mean, none of us will be doing the same thing the same way 10 years from now. So practice, keep doing what you're doing. I would honestly say that. Now, academia, on the other hand, I think we need to do some soul searching to address our changing landscape. Just like investors use multiple sources, information sources that are more timely than financial statements, if you think about it, students now have options to learn accounting that does not require them to matriculate, where they can avoid student loan debt and save money. And in the same breath, practitioners also they have options to solve their problems where they seldom look to academia at all for any help with those problems. This is not a contemporary problem. It's been that way for many decades.
Right, and I have also, I do some recruiting, or at least some outreach with the Institute of Internal Auditors at different campuses, and some folks have asked me, okay, well, how do I know I'm more of an external auditor versus, let's say, an internal auditor?
Right.
I said, well, you have to go with what you feel is going to make you happiest, which is, are you going to be in your, let's say, your true self if you feel that you're going to work in a team, no matter what, internal or external, you're going to work in a team, and it's going to be a similar team, but external auditing, it's sometimes abrasive. You can't give your arm out and say, well, let me, not only did I find the problem, but, oh, by the way, let me give you a template, or let me give you a resource to go solve it. Because external auditors more and more are becoming intimidated by other regulators such as the PCAOB to actually offer any practical solutions, whereas internal audit does. In addition, internal audit, you get to do more, instead of saying audit, research on value-add items, so you can take those skill sets and say, in the marketing and or the sales department, we have to test revenue anyways for certain controls or for certain amounts. What's the value-add proposition I can give in an operational audit that
That's right.
the audit committee or the board might, whereas an external audit, you're there for a function. It's a very commodity-based type of fee because there's a lot of competition in internal auditing. I'm not saying there isn't any competition. I'm just saying it's a different approach to look at the business. And therefore, when I go to certain students, I say, so now you really got to be real to yourself and say, what's your short and long-term goals? Because internal auditing is a great profession as well as external auditing, but there's very clear and distinctive paths as to what you do 5 years out, 10 years out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's very distinct differences. And in terms of the internal audit profession, I always tell folks, well, you know, you can't just be a finance type person. You got to understand the IT because you will become so irrelevant in the audit team so quickly that you're going to be the person that gets the low-hanging fruit, if you will, of the audit program, right? Because
you are absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. And one thing I could add is when students ask me those types of questions, I mean, because basically as an accounting professor, we're constantly pushing them towards major accounting firms. But I share with students my experience where I've worked with big major accounting firms, but I've also worked with small national ones, and I've done internal audit. With internal audit, you get a little bit more protection as an employee. You get to learn some really good things, and you get to actually contribute to solving problems. So it depends on what it is that you're looking for, because with the bigger firms, you get that brand recognition, but you get to learn things in a different way. So I think I'm just reiterating what you've already said.
Yeah, no, I actually worked at a nice regional firm out here in Los Angeles, had a wonderful experience. I actually got to do more faster. That was the other thing that I noticed, the big difference versus a bigger firm. You know, I got exposed to a lot more stuff faster in terms of whether it was accounting or auditing techniques, et cetera, because it was a very, like, we got to get this thing done, and we have a shorter budget, whereas a bigger firm may have a little bit more of a cushion, and, you know, there's at least 5 people on the engagement, whereas in a smaller firm, it's, okay, now it's just you and the partner or you and the manager, and that's it.
Absolutely right.
And therefore, you're seeing the entire audit program from soup to nuts, so to speak, so it's a different approach. And, you know, I'm not so stuck on the brand name anymore, just because of obviously my life experiences, et cetera, because you know, there are some bright and smart people that have come from a local firm, and I've met those folks, and they've proven themselves because they're consistent, and therefore you know, there are options. I loved my experiences at Anderson and Ernst & Young, and I wouldn't tell anybody not to go there. I'm just saying that the this notion in the schools, the university saying, well, you got to go Big Four or go home. I mean, it's really not a true statement. It's this you know, I think it's more of a marketing or branding issue that the regional and local firms need to kind of put out there in the colleges about why they have some key advantages, and instead of saying what the disadvantage is, I mean, the kids are already, you know, they've already got their laundry list of disadvantages. Now it's their time to promote the advantages out there. But
absolutely.
Daniel, thank you for being on our show today.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, this is Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum, signing off.